Server restart in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to Server Restart In. It's a World of Warcraft podcast where you have three opinionated players who get together weekly to discuss their thoughts and opinions about the game. My name's Jim. I'm joined by Kristen.
Hey.
And Brian.
Hi.
And this week marked the end of the first, I don't want to call it chapter, but the first Covenant storyline. So for people who were in the game, starting the expansion at the beginning, and maybe some people that started a little bit late, I don't know how much they could have caught up. You probably had the option to catch all the way up, but it ended the 9 chapters of the Covenant class story. Class All-Star Covenant stories or whatever.
Oh, you could get all the way caught up.
Okay. Well then, okay.
Can you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because one of the people in the guild, switched covenants, and they were all the way caught up. They finished the story.
Oh,
Having
so what about
switched.
renown levels? That's kind of out of left field, but
You
renown
should
levels
be able to get renown up to whatever is available that week.
Yeah.
They in doing it on some of my other characters, they have all different kinds of quests that you can do. Whether it be the callings or something.
So storyline renown versus Threads of Fate renown.
Oh.
The reason I asked anyways was because my son is like only 4, like level 4, but I told him earlier, I'm like, well, all the armor I believe is out now, so you should be able to go ahead and level through it and, get some decent armor out of it, assuming you have some anima. And then I thought about it and I'm like, wait, is it still gated
Mm.
in storyline?
Yeah, because you
know.
get some of it from the story.
You get some of it from the story, but you have the ability to upgrade it, and it gets higher level as you go.
Right, but can you just keep doing you have to get the piece before you can upgrade it. So can you keep doing that?
I think you can buy the piece. I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, he would be in the state right now where we just hit 60 and have only done 1 week's worth. So my question is, like, does he have to wait, 8 more weeks to get the full set?
Is he doing the
Or is
callings? Is he doing the callings?
Yeah,
No.
like he is at. What I'm saying is, can he keep going?
Yeah.
Or is he going to be gated still?
No.
It should be open up now,
He
right?
can keep going. The whole thing is open. It was just gated on a week-to-week basis.
It's also gated based on your renown, and if you're not getting renown, then it's still gated.
Well, yeah, but you got renown for doing certain things. You got renown for getting the lost soul things, and you got renown for doing the...
Yeah, because remember, a lot of that stuff was tied to those specific weekly quests, and I'm like, well, that'd be kind of weird if you do that once, then go around like 20 minutes later and have to do it again, you know what I mean, to catch back up. Because we've been doing Save Souls in the Mall just about every week, I think, since it started.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of odd to...
There's a way when you change your covenants to catch back up to where you were, I think, at least as far as like souls and stuff were concerned. I haven't changed covenants, so I don't know how that works. I haven't paid attention to the difference between God damn it, Battle Cat. The difference between the Threads of Fate and leveling through the story again and then getting renown. I have a few characters, but
let's move into the raid stuff then.
No, we can talk about like the end of the story, because it seems that in the first parts of the story for like the Necrolord Covenant, there were some interactions with Bastion where we went and helped like cleanse the necrotic wake kind of thing, and Mograine had that existential crisis about what covenant he should be in type thing. And then they came and helped us fight the House of Constructs and take them down, where we fought the big giant one, the big giant
Yeah.
Margrave.
Yeah, can I just say that was very frustrating to me, because my covenant didn't have any interaction with anybody. Like, it was just straight up Ardenweald. Like, it was really frustrating. Like, you're like, we had people in, the
I told
Emo.
you we need to burn that place down.
The emo
it's
covenant,
not beneficial.
and then the Bony Boy covenant, and they're all working together and this and that, and I'm like, what the heck?
Well,
Where's my, being able to work with people? Like,
because
we just got the whole, we're fighting the Drust, and we're, blah, 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 and I don't know. I wasn't super thrilled with the story, I'll be honest. It didn't really, I mean, it was cool seeing what's his nuts, but, it wasn't super
What is his nuts?
Vol'jin. But it was other, I mean, and
Wait, that's true. You do have the kind of, you got that cool interface with Loa.
right.
Loa of Death specifically. And they're kind of the interface in between. Well, shit, I guess Ardenweald's the interface between like the wild gods and because aren't the Loa a subset of wild gods or some
I
shit
think
like
they
that?
are troll wild gods. They're similar,
So,
but I don't
yeah,
know
it's
if
the-
they're reborn, because Hakar wasn't reborn. He was trying. They were trying to like resurrect him or something like that in Zul'Gurub
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't done anything with Ardenweald as far as like Covenant story is concerned to really get a feel for it. But again, Ardenweald always felt cut off to begin with, because the Winter
Yeah.
Queen doesn't give a shit about anybody else.
Yeah. I can't really argue with that. I mean, it felt like that would have been neat to like. I like that you were saying Mograine had that like crisis of blah blah blah. Well, that's cool. That would have So it's nice because I'm leveling my warlock now, and well, not anymore. She's 60. Woo! Thank God, no more Threads of Fate. And I'm Maldraxxus because I was like, oh, I really I like that storyline. Like I saw the culmination of Jim's campaign when he was finishing it, and I was like, oh, Kel'Thuzad.
Well, you have to think though with the Necrolords too. Their whole function is to defend the Shadowlands, and so they're righting the mistakes that were made by the Maldraxxi in Bastion, by the assault on the on whatever that temple was. I don't know if it was the Temple of Purity or whatever Necrotic Wake is. And there was I don't know, the people that were the shitheads in Maldraxxus were working with Sire Denathrius to get Anima. So they were part of the plot for him, where they're trying to free the jailer. They're all part of that. So after Kael'thas is freed, you team up with him to go, like, I guess, purge Revendreth of a Maldraxxi, incursion point. And they talk about a lich and all that stuff, and it's Kel'Thuzad. And then the end of it is, or like I guess the next week after that, you went to kind of infiltrate the House of Rituals, figure out what he's trying to do, and the lich that you're helping is an idiot because he sends you to go get some books that Kel'Thuzad want to try and figure out what he's trying to do. And it was super easy to tell from the titles of the books that he was looking at a way to break the spell that was, keeping the jailer locked up and keeping the maw the way it is. But he couldn't figure it out. I'm like, are you an idiot? Well, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And bringing it back, he goes, there's nothing in these books. These are just stories. And then you get caught. And then he locks himself in the house. And it's just like, he just goes inside and closes the door and says, sorry, guys, I'm going home. So now you have to go wait a week so you can build up your forces. And then you go ahead and do a little assault and you fight him in there. And it's funny because it is a recreation of the Nax fight.
Yeah.
You're in a room and like the mobs start slowly walking towards the center.
Banshees from behind.
And it was
Abominations in the rear.
oh, good old Kel'Thuzad. But I mean, it was a nice throwback, and he ends up, you basically kick his ass, and then he gets rescued by Mossworn. So he ain't gone. It's just, I'm just wondering if like the first parts of these stories are just intended to be kind of like their own little like winding paths that end up into the same one. Like when they do like the continuation of it, if it's going to be more focused on your covenant trying to do stuff in the Maw.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. These are all going to be the traditional, this is the story of the zone, and this is why you're here doing this shit. And there you go. You wrapped it up. And so I think that's what annoys me the most, is that we just don't have enough. There's lots of information going on relative to the zones themselves, but lore-wise, there's really nothing that's kind of taken us, to the next step yet.
I mean, but if you think about it, if you get swept up into a whole new thing, you're only ever going to get bits and pieces of it. I mean, so that's kind of like more realistic.
Well, no, I get it. The only thing right now, like especially from the Maldraxxus perspective, is that we know that apparently the Maw forces can do whatever they want, but Zorval can't. Like they can portal out and go anywhere they want in the universe apparently, and go steal people. But big old fat Zorval, he can't.
Well,
he can't
okay. First off, the ones you're talking about are the Mossworn, which are fallen Kyrian, so they could be related to the Forsworn from Bastion. So they might not be actually like natural denizens of the Maw. Also,
no, fair enough, but they're like in the Maw, and the Maw Walker was the only one that could get out of the Maw.
Well,
the few million of us could get out of the Maw.
Well,
and then,
but we're still alive, right? And
well, it's not just that. He's got all these souls and all this anima that's been funneled to him. Now, there's the heart of the forest in Ardenweald. As long as that's up, he can't leave. As long as that magic hasn't been broken. So he can't get out. But other creatures potentially can, because he has a way to, or he has the power to like allow them to like, because it's not full armies of it. It's like in that Maldraxxus quest line for the story, it was just one of the giant creatures. It wasn't a full army. Or it's a couple of the Mossworn coming out to, pull Kel'Thuzad back. Oh, it was so funny because Kael'thas wanted to fucking blast him. Do you remember that?
yeah,
A Draven or whatever. He takes the amulet from him, which is one of the amulets from Revendreth, and I guess the Harvesters or something like that. It's one of their amulets. So he takes it, and Kel'Thuzad's just like powering up to like fucking pyroblast his ass, and fucking Draven's like, nope, he's not yours to punish. Because it's like, but Dad, it's just like he was so upset. But I mean, I don't know. Draven was kind of right. I mean, he's part of Maldraxxus. It's within the Necrolords to deal with their own kind of thing. You don't get to punish a different covenant.
Well, he also, his role right now in this part of the realm isn't. Well, first he has two roles currently. One is to not do anything but repent for his sins or whatever they do over there in Revendreth. And then two, he was recruited to assist with solving this problem. So yeah. It's funny because I actually like that bit of interaction. I like the fact that they're like, even last week or week before, whenever the the lady was like, you're still not learning or whatever when she was talking to him about the way he was acting and stuff. And it's like, I actually kind of like that there's something there that's kind of still holding them to this process that's kind of broken right now. And these characters sticking to it. So
yeah, it's, I don't know, I think a lot of it's okay, but I don't know, it's like, what are we gonna do the next couple of weeks? There wasn't a Torghast quest from Bolvar this week.
Yeah, and I need my soul ash.
yeah, there's not one at all. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, check out last week was the one that we peered in, right?
And last week was the one where we had to go find clues about the lion, which were just a couple of things about.
And then we saw the.
And actually, I think it was you had to do it on the first level, the first layer of Twisting Corridors.
Yeah.
It was the introduction for that because there was 3 clues, and you got them from each of the 3-wing floor bosses.
Yeah, you're right.
So that was the introduction into Twisted Corridors, which were a pain in the ass. Because I think
I don't want to talk about it.
It's just too long.
I don't want to talk about it.
It just takes
okay. Moving on.
It just takes a really long time to complete them. Like
after losing on floor 13 last night, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
It's a stupid time commitment.
After soloing the Terragru or whatever hell his name is for a few minutes, and then getting blasted with like 4 million damage, I don't want to talk about it anymore. No, nope.
How does your butt feel?
I hate that place. My butt is fine.
I am not a fan of it right now either. Because I hit 60 on my Warlock yesterday. And I took her into Torghast today because I wanted to get her a legendary. And I was like, oh yeah, the legendary I want is up in the things now. And so I started doing it. And I am 135 item level. And I pretty much breezed through 1 through 4. Layers 1 through 4. So at the third layer, I hit the third layer, and the boss didn't drop the
memory.
The memory. And I was like, what the heck? I thought they were guaranteed. I mean, they might not be, but every time I've gone on my druid, I've gotten them. So I was like, oh, I thought they were guaranteed. I'm like, well, that sucked. So then I went and I did layer 4, and it didn't drop either. And then I went and I did layer 5, and it didn't drop either. And I was like, what the frickin' heck is going on? And then I looked and realized that I was on the Rune Carver quest where I had to go kill old Eric, whatever his name is, old Eric, to retrieve a memory. So I wasn't even to the point where I could get the memories yet, which is stupid on an alt. You should just be able to go in and start collecting your memories for your legendaries. It's ridiculous.
As long as you remember to.
Yeah. I mean,
and
if you've already
pretty sure
done
that's
it.
The second time I've said that joke.
If you've done it on.
It's the first time I remember it.
On a main character, you should be able to just go collect memories. So you have legendaries.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. So then I went out to the. Then I was,
you okay?
I was so mad because of that.
Smacked her microphone.
Smacked my mic. No, so then I ran out and I killed the thing, and I'm like, okay. And then I continued on with the quest, and then I went and I killed it on the next floor and got my 1. And then I realized, oh shit, it's Soul Forges and I need Skuldus. So it wasn't even the legendary, because I'm like, this isn't the legendary that I wanted. This is
that feels bad.
Frickin', I think it was Destro. I'm like, what? This isn't, what? So yeah, that felt bad. I was like, and then I looked and I'm like, oh, I needed Skuldus. So, I'll be waiting. I wish they would just open them all. Just open them all. Why they need to be on a rotating schedule? It's really dumb.
I mean, because then you have options.
Yeah. Oh, God forbid you have options. Make
God
it
forbid
so
you
you
have
can
options.
only get, a certain amount of soul ash in a week. You know what I mean? But then you could say you just wanted to do level 1s in every single one of them because you're not strong enough to do a level 8. You know? I don't know.
Options are bad.
That makes too much sense. I'm sorry. I'll stop with that logic stuff. You know?
I mean,
so dumb. So yeah. So and I think I found my stopping point for Torghast right now on this character at like level 135. Doing layer 7. Holy effing crap. Never has it been more apparent when I get super shit powers. Oh my god. Like, I'm getting like, I'm not even, I didn't realize this until Jim pointed it out to me. Fear. I hadn't really been fearing anything, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I could fear things. And he's like, you know, the bosses, because I'm like, I can't figure out how to stop that inner flames, right? So then I'm like, I could Mortal Coil, or I could Shadow Fury, you know, blah, blah, blah. But those are, Mortal Coil less annoying, but Shadow Fury is a little annoying. And then I'm like, I wonder if I could fear them. And I can fear the bosses, the end bosses before you go into, so that was good. But it also builds up their CC meter. So I had one it up to like 50. Just turn around.
50?
CC meter?
50.
It's not their CC meter. It's when you engage elites and floor bosses and bosses have an empowerment buff that slowly stacks up over time, which increases their damage and all this other stuff. And it used to make them immune to.
It doesn't, but it goes up on every application of the CC.
No.
Yes. It was going up on every application of the CC. The buff was ticking down for it, and then I would reapply my CC, and it would go up, and it would start the buff thing over.
I mean, they cast it at a regular basis. It's an on use, or it's a cast ability that they have. Because when I take,
he was feared nonstop, so he wasn't casting anything. It was on my cast of fear, and I was
then you shouldn't have feared him that much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was like, all of a sudden I looked at it and I was like, it's at 50, and I was like, holy shit, he's doing like 300% damage, and he just turned around and just smacked me. But he died at the same time that I died, so I considered that a win.
Kind of like that one boss.
Which one?
I don't know, whichever one we were doing.
Oh, that died. I died as it died.
Yes.
Yes. I consider that a win. That's okay. I'm okay with that. But then I was like, the next floor that I went to, it was just, it was horrible. It was so bad. My powers were so bad.
But did you die on Twisting Corridors floor 13, layer 4?
I haven't done Twisting
No,
Corridors.
we died
on, that
on layer 8, floor 17. So go to hell.
Like,
we did die on layer 8,
you had to
floor
redo
17.
it?
Yes. Yeah, we did it in an afternoon. We had some super shit powers, and then we went back and did it that night, and we frickin' like breezed through it. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
And it was like at 3.5 hours.
That's worse than mine. That's by far worse than mine.
Yeah.
When you're that close.
Yeah.
And it was have you had the floor where you walk in, you go up the stairs, and then it's a short path and goes right up to the exit, but then there's the chain that goes up to the thing, and it's just a super short corridor? It was that one. So once the Terror group came in, there was nothing to do. You couldn't get to the end boss because the first mobs just trashed us.
Yeah.
And because they had the discordant barrage, and you can't see shit half the time.
And it was
hallways.
Increased magic damage, and it was just terrible. Oh, it was so bad. Yeah. Yeah, so
but I had more than 12k HP, so.
Didn't help. Did not help. But yeah, that one was brutal. That one was, it was like 3.5 hours we were in that one for, because our powers were so bad. And then, then the next one we went in, I mean, it's ridiculous how, different a run can be, one from the other, Like, it was like night and day. It was like that's the second one we went in. It
that's
was like,
so random.
Yeah. well, I don't know what the heck is going on, but Blizzard certainly isn't doing the random stuff with mine runs now. I'm getting no powers to empower my pets, and that's the only powers I want. So it's very frustrating. I'm very frustrated.
You know what really sucks is I still, even though I say I hate Torghast, I have the desire to run it because it is a single player thing, and there is a little bit of a challenge to it to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the damn reward thing is still,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
Oh my fucking God.
I was saying that earlier, as I wish that you could get gear from it, because I've spent an entire day doing this Torghast all day, and I got nothing out of it except for I got 6 layers done.
So we talked about that last week, and like the day after we recorded or whatever, like, and I don't know if it was the day after we recorded, the day we released the podcast or something like that. There was that article where some people were talking about the same thing about how there's like nothing, worth doing in there or whatever, or you don't get anything out of it really. And you're like, oh, they should listen to the podcast. Or they must have listened to the podcast. That kind of shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
She was doing a run, and there was a dredger in there carrying a sack.
Oh, yeah.
Who ran away, dropping piles of phantasma.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fucking treasure goblin.
No,
it's a treasure goblin.
And the best...
But it's a shitty one. It was almost nothing.
The best part about it was I sent my pet after him, and he pulled everything. I died horribly. It was so funny. I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's the shitty thing. Like, it didn't have the attack.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't right-click attack him.
Yeah.
You just I had to pummel him.
Yeah.
To get him to start and do something.
Yeah.
What, really?
Yeah, he just stood there until I did something to him.
Yeah.
And then he took off, and then my pet went after him and just aggroed everything, and I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I didn't like it.
So let's actually talk about Torghast, because this week they introduced a Torghast event, right?
Ugh.
So, and there's like 3 or 4 different ones that are going to happen like every other week or something like that on a rotation. This week is like the Beast of
whatever
something.
It's shitty.
And when you start, you have the option to pick a mob beast.
Yeah.
As just a companion type pet. And if you do throughout the run, you'll get powers that will boost them. Give them more health, give them more damage, that kind of stuff.
It's stupid
because
you have no way to control them.
Right, but it's supposed to, I guess, to be like, I don't know. And like when I think it said when they died, they would respawn at the next level, but I think they changed it later on because I would see them drop down and then just sit there for a few seconds and then come back.
Yeah. That's what they did.
But it was interesting to see that. And I don't know what the other ones are going to be like, but it's just like, I don't know. I know we were talking about there not being, it could potentially be pretty boring after a while because it's all just the same shit over and over again. Even with the randomness built in, it's still all the same mobs and all that stuff. And I guess this is a way to put in some difference and give you a way to build a different play style. And that's like we were talking about that today too, about how, based on the powers you get, it forces you to look at spells and abilities that you have at your disposal that you don't normally use. So like, I mainly run a Frost DK. Death Coil has no place in my rotation at all. It's a runic power dump, but so is Frost Strike. But if you get Bone Harvester, I think, is a power where your Death Coil puts something on a mob, and if it dies with that dot on it, it turns into a little minion, like one of the Skulkers or one of like the Archers or whatever. So you can do that. You can build up the damage for that. There's a Lichborn power you get where if you use Lichborn, it just starts spamming Death Coils on your targets.
That's kind of cool.
Or yourself. If you're hurt, it'll do it to yourself to heal you up. So it's like a free heal. Death and Decay. I don't use Death and Decay as Frost hardly ever. I think it's a waste of runes, and it doesn't really seem to have that much of a damage output. But you can get powers in there that will increase the radius and cause creatures in there to do reduced damage to you. I think I had like 30% reduced damage. There's also ones that I think that increase your haste when you're inside your Death and Decay. So they give you powers that, and these are just gray powers. These aren't even, blues, greens, purples, nothing. These are just like low rent powers. But when they stack and you get them, it forces you to look at your character a little bit differently, and you have to learn to change your play style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it is a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that. Right? It's like you learn to play your
what
class.
sucks too is that with that you have to sit and play Torghast over and over to actually get used to switching to that play style, because it is a lot different. You're absolutely right, and there is a freaking art to it. But you have to sit and run it enough to get a good feel of the balance that you need, and it's very very interesting, but it's very very like, you gotta sink at least 5 to 10 hours into it just to get a feel for it.
There's a couple powers that are really strong for Frost. There's Unbreakable Cuffs, which increases the number of mobs that that Chains of Ice hits. So it stacks up to 5 times, so you can hit 6 creatures with Chains of Ice. Then there is an epic power that causes mobs that are chained with Chains of Frost to be chained together, and their health pool splits, the damage between them. It starts at 50, and I think I've seen it up to 3, so it shares 150%. So if you build those 3 up, or those 2 different power sets up to max, you walk into a room, and you pull everything, you chains, and if there's more than 6 targets, you change, then you find one that's not, and you chain it, and you just chain everything, and you just burn it fucking down. Because you can focus one target and do your single target rotation, and everything shares that damage. And if you use big hitting abilities or AoE abilities, it just amplifies it, and that's a really good power set. Now, and those are the only situations that, and using like the Icebound Fortitude, Interrupt combinations, those are the only ones where I've actually been able to push, high DPS numbers, like over 100k or whatever. Without that kind of stuff, it just doesn't scale. And when we're running and she gets all her Convoke powers and all that stuff, she'll sit there and she'll blow up almost to like 500k, if not over, at least peaking over 500k, DPS. And it's just the scaling is just ridiculous, and it's just I just don't understand.
Well, that's what, like, for mine is I've learned that I have these pillars of secondary skills and certain buff percentages only in Torghast that I have to balance out to scale my character up through, especially Twisting Corridors. That's where I made a mistake the other night. I selected one power, one freaking power that threw me off enough where I couldn't make up the difference for my health in the end when I got shitty selections.
Kind of like when you lose 5% health per floor, starting on floor 2.
And yes. I have the buffs both of the clickable buffs. No, I have the clickable buff for from Venari, and then I have the cheap Anima Cell buff as well.
Is that okay?
What?
So once you reach Cordial with her, you can buy.
I was trying to figure out where those 5 Phasmo
They give you a
Or-
power.
Yeah, you bought it. You bought it. at
It's
some
a
point.
thing you bought from Venari that
Yes.
puts those. I didn't realize it. I'm like, why are these showing up all of a sudden?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what's going on with this?
Yeah, and they show up on all your characters because I'm getting them on my
Yeah,
warlock,
no,
which is great.
The Venari stuff is account bound.
Yeah.
Once you buy those power ups, that's a power up.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the mall ones are the same.
No, I think the mall ones aren't. I think I read that the mall ones aren't. The Torghast ones are, but the mall ones aren't. I could be wrong, or they
don't know.
could
I
have
think-
changed it. But
I
I
think I
thought
can
that
use
that is
the-
what I had read.
The mall mount is account
Oh,
wide.
the
though,
mall
right?
mount is
Yeah.
account wide because I've been using it on my warlock.
Good.
Like I've been.
Not,
Just,
it's not the mount. It's the things you buy from Venari
yeah.
that give you like little bonuses in the maw zone.
No,
Yeah.
I understand that. I'm just
Oh.
making sure that mount is account
Yes.
wide.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no
Yeah.
reason to do twisting corridors
If it's not
on any
account
other
wide.
character
Yeah.
other than the first layer for the quest
Yeah.
when you get it. Unless there is another quest in there,
Right.
right?
Makes sense.
But every achievement for every layer is account bound. The pet, the appearance, the title, and the maw mount are all account bound. So yes, once you finish it, Brian, you'll never have to set foot in there again.
Baby steps. I can't do it again anytime soon. I'll probably do it tomorrow.
You want to do it tonight?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I could go. I've been in Torghast all day on my warlock, like literally all day. Like I did
Not
my
gonna
dailies on
I-
my druid, and then I logged on to my warlock, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Layer 8. So layer 6.
I don't know. I may end up doing some coding.
Same.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
may or may not have already been doing it while we were talking.
Oh, you jerk!
Fix the add-on so I can use it.
It's out.
So I
you
don't
can go
ever-
get it.
It's not
so
on.
I don't have to
I mean, I guess she
use
could
a
get it from
macro
GitHub.
anymore, and I can save macro space, and I can save key bindings.
Yeah, it's. I'll tell you what, and I guess we're gonna pivot a little bit and get over to a little bit different topic. This is game related, but not gameplay related. But we've talked about doing this before, Brian and I, and being software, people as far as our line of work. We were going to, sit down and maybe take a look at some add-ons. And Brian got a bug up his ass to start on something for, I guess, an auto congrats thing, right? Which,
I got tired of seeing everybody else's fire off all the time, and I'm like, why don't they have different things? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own.
well,
I'm not
so-
going to have different things no matter what. Like I like I spend a lot of time to come up with those to make
I
those,
think Brian
so-
thought everybody was typing them out.
Did you really think
No,
everybody was
no,
typing
I
those
didn't.
out? There's like literally paragraphs of congrats.
Yeah, people write books. Just to kind of be like in line with their characters and like the classes and all
Yeah,
that
it's a
kind of
little
stuff.
bit of RP stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice little bit of flavor.
Yeah.
But so Brian's working on it, and then Brian's talking to me about it last night, and he's like, this stupid UI, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at it. So I spent several hours last night, and then I got done with work, and the first thing I did was pull it up and start working on it again, and just trying to dig through and find any information on the internet about the API for WoW add-ons, how to write Lua, anything like that. There is just scattered
Isn't there a
resources
wiki?
everywhere.
It's bad.
The wiki.
There's one good wiki for it, yeah.
Well, I found, and like one of the things I found was something on GitHub where it detailed some of the changes for one of the things, which included the backdrop stuff for frames. And it, but trying to find an example of how it works now is hard because they changed it with 9.0. When 9.0 came out, they changed the functionality of it. So now when you create a frame, if you want to have like backdrop settings or whatever, you have to inherit a certain way from some certain templates, as opposed to it being built in to like the frame class or whatever. But getting to that point was a nightmare. It was ridiculous. There's no good clear-cut resources. There's no IDEs. There isn't. I mean, I guess there are some, that people make, but they're on like old systems or like old version. Like there's not a Visual Studio program that you can use that to see it. I mean, there is one that uses Visual Studio, but it uses like
that's what I was saying. Like, this is a lot like writing apps for the Roku. The Roku really works the same exact way. They have their own language, but it is still very much like Lua as a back end, and they use XML for the front end. And it's just it's very low level when it comes to implementation, but the language is very much like a high level functional language like JavaScript maybe, or something like that. So my frustration was that I would like to lay out a user interface with the proper language, right? And then turn around and hook that up with a solid backend. The problem with this is that now you could do both, and it seems that people much prefer to code their backends. I'm sorry, their user interfaces completely in Lua, which is fine because XML probably just compiles down to Lua in the end, but or transpiles, whatever it does. But it's just frustrating because from a modern day perspective, even it doesn't really matter what framework, platform, system, anything that you're working on, aside from a CLI, you're kind of working with the same tiered situation where you have a UI and a some form of code behind logic, whatever it may be. So that was the frustrating part for me. And then trying to find like the links back to World of Warcraft's add-on APIs were like all dead. The only reliable stuff I could find was on Wowpedia or Gamepedia, something like that.
It's Wowpedia. Wowpedia's on Gamepedia, I think, or whatever.
And even still, it was very vague, like in the sense of
it's just like, this is what this is, blah blah blah. There were some.
Well, it's like grabbing events. Events was a big issue because I had ripped open somebody else's add-on to see, what was coming through with parameters, and it's like, oh, you can check. The website said you could check the event object coming through, which is the first object in the parameters, and it should be the channel source or whatever it may be. And I kept checking that and nothing was happening. And I'm like, what the hell? And finally got to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, it's the first argument. So you have object 1 is something, object 2 is the source, that it came from. So then you have to hook off of that, and then parse that apart to get the best information from it to do something with it. So, and it just wasn't very clear. It's very evident that the documentation for a lot of the stuff it's well over a decade old. So,
oh yeah, trying to find anything on it, it's just like, oh, okay, I Google it, I find a hit, I go to it, it's from 2009. I'm just like, well, that's probably not going to be worth a damn because half the API shit changes every patch.
Well, not to mention that this is the way that like our industry communicates now is completely different than it was 10 years ago. So people are a lot more closed up 10 years ago than they are today, where they're very much more communications more open. So a lot of those responses were always like, they're just trashy responses. They're not it's not as efficient as it is today. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, that was a brief little step away from the game. So Brian, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, the concept of raiding in general.
Yeah, so my thought was like, when we were talking about, I think when we did the raid last time, one of the things that got on my nerves was like, we get started late, something pushes us behind, or like the time spent getting to a certain point. And then what the frustrating part was and that's fine. The thing that it got me thinking about was that
you broke up there, Brian. Say that again. The frustrating part.
No, I was just saying that the frustrating part is my problem.
Okay.
But what it got me thinking about was that the expectation of reward from a raid, whether it be gear or completing the boss, is kind of outdated when you consider like we can put a few people together and run Mythic Plus dungeons and get progressively harder content and better rewards a lot more quickly. The idea of a raid used to be that you wrangle all these people together and you work really hard coordination wise and defeat a boss and get really good gear from it. Right? The reward was something you really couldn't get somewhere else. For the most part, right? If we're just talking about a raid in general.
Right.
So now that we're sitting here like one of the things we're talking about was that I think I asked you if we were gonna lock it, and extend it. And you mentioned something about people still needed gear, and I'm like, I guess it makes sense because a lot of us probably been doing Mythic Plus, and some haven't had a chance to. But now it's like, well, I'm thinking to myself like, I'm not sure why I'm trying to push so hard because I don't need gear from here. But what I really wanted to do was like experience more of the raid and try to beat it. But in this case, like, holy crap, like, doesn't matter what I get from here. Most things I won't be able to use.
Yeah. I mean,
and the reality is like, why are they still making, other than to get people or keep people subscribed, which I hate to say that's the reason. I hope that there's some fancy game design in front of that to kind of mask that idea, because we all know it's true. But in reality, like, why aren't we learning? Why aren't they taking lessons of the past and applying it to modern raids? Hard modes, man. Hard modes. What? There's no reason to. In my opinion, I say throw out every difficulty and just have a solid raid dungeon that has hard modes, even progressively harder modes, right? So, like, you know what I mean? It used to be you press a button and you enabled a hard mode, or you did something else on a few bosses in Ulduar to do a hard mode.
Yeah.
Well, stuff like that. Like,
was Ulduar the only one that had hard modes? Because that was before they went to heroic for Lich King, right?
Well, they had yes, because they had 10-man, then they had 25-man when it started, and then they had 10-man, then 25-man, then they had hard modes.
Hard modes was in
hard modes.
That was in Ulduar. I don't think anything else had it that I can recall.
Right, and then the third tier was
And then Lich King came. Trial of Crusader?
Yeah. And then that's when they...
Is that when they had the heroic?
Is that when they switched to heroic and regular?
Like,
because then you could do 10 heroic, then 25, then 25 heroic.
Yeah. It was
I
either
think that's
that...
when they switched to it.
It was either that or it was ICC. It was one of those two.
Yeah.
And you're right. Hard modes did add something different to the fight. They did definitely
I just think that like at this point they could with the amount of stuff that they do with the mechanics in the fights, they could really apply some interesting techniques to get more out of a single run, right? Because the pace at which we spend time defeating a boss, right? A lot of it may be learning, and a lot of it may be that our damage, compared to whatever gear and skill set is skewing across the board. Balanced out, obviously, because we're doing fine. But it's just slow enough that you spend that much time in there, and then it just becomes like a Torghast, right? Except at this time, you get to spend it with people you kind of care about, rather than yourself, or in my case, myself most of the time in Torghast. But you know what I mean? Like there should be. It seems like when you think of a raid, right? Even before the concept of raiding in MMOs, I always think of the village with pitchforks, right? They're going to raid. You know what I mean? Like
storm the castle.
It should be more of a pickup. It should be more of a pick up and go type of thing, in my opinion. And in having those progressively harder mechanisms, right? Instead of just a flat out another version of it, have those built in there so that can just kind of happen naturally. Does that make sense? Like, I think for the most part, like for me, I do want to progress through the raid, but at the same time, like, the difficulty to get over versus the difficulty we have in, like, getting through mythic dungeons, right? It seems a little off in comparison to the reward cycle that you kind of get back from it. So long are the days gone where we were running raids to get the best gear, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it still set up? It's almost like raids have not caught up with the life cycle of changes that started years ago.
Yeah.
In terms of time spent reward cycles. So I don't know. That was my thought.
I get what you're saying about it, and I think raids are really just more of a vehicle for story points now. It's just a way.
It kind of feels that way, and that's another thing that sucks. Like, because if you do get in that cycle where you're trying to get through it, well, now we're seeing effects of the raid that happened over here, but we're here. You know what I mean? And then like our Covenant campaign is kind of here on the timeline.
That's kind of bad that they put in Kael'thas before he was in LFR, right? Or did they put it in the same way?
Is he in it now?
Yeah, Sun King's in LFR, I think.
Yeah, you could do Sun King and LFR.
So I don't know if he came out as part of like Story Quest before he was available in LFR. And I think if he did, then that is kind of poor on their part, right? Because the way I think they did it is that LFR is a way for people who don't raid to experience the story stuff from the raid, right? So if you're going to have a continuation of the story from the raid, at least have it up to the point where that boss is defeatable in LFR. And it's just like, if there was to be, because, and I don't know if there's any story in Revendreth about the defeat of Denathrius and all that stuff, because I'm pretty sure that he gets trapped in his sword kind of shit, and he's going to spend some time in there to think about what he did wrong.
Wait, what?
Kind of thing. He gets trapped in his sword when you beat him.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So, but like, he's not dead. He's just going to be punished. That's his sin stone now. That's his own little Shadowlands. But it's just like, again, that's not readily available to a majority of the people that maybe want to experience it through LFR, like being their only way. So if any like story stuff hinges on that, or hinges on Kael'thas and all that stuff. It's just like people don't know where he came from if they don't raid. If you hadn't done any of the raid and all of a sudden Kael'thas is there, you'd be like, where'd you come from? It's like, why weren't you around when we were doing all this fighting in Revendreth to begin with? Where the hell were you? It would just be like if all of a sudden some story quest popped up and Garrosh is there.
Yeah.
And we have no idea where the fuck he came from.
Where the fuck is Garrosh? Damn it. It's total bullshit that we still haven't found him
Well,
yet.
you see, he's wearing one of those Halloween paper masks and he's a blood elf and it's really Kael'thas.
Oh God.
Kael'thas is really Garrosh.
That's funny.
But that seems to be a conspiracy theory. Does that
I ain't got nothing
Make it
this
time?
week, buddy.
Oh. I have a conspiracy.
so that means you
corner
have to sing
thing.
it.
Oh Jesus, no! You don't want me to do that. It's conspiracy.
You have to.
It's conspiracy
you have to
corner.
do
It's conspiracy corner. There we
Yay!
go. Torghast, you sons of bitches! They make it freaking harder. Like, you know how, like, oh, it's supposed to get harder the harder. Well, it does get harder, but they give you less and less powers, and they give you the shit powers. The higher up you go, you get the super shit powers. So you go in and you do level 1 and 2. Right now,
Layer?
layer 1 and 2. Right now, my pet, right? Okay, I'm on my warlock. My pet has like 250% health, right? He has hit points, 183,000 hit points. I'm on a layer 1 right now because I wanted to go and like reset my things because I really got super shitty powers on my layer 7. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go back and do a layer 1 and it'll reset and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he's decked out. He's got, you know, 100%, 250% health. He's got, you know, like 200% damage. I mean, dude is unkillable, right? I can just send him in. And I just got a talent that whenever I use health funnel on him, he takes like 35% less damage for 10 seconds for me when I'm using health funnel on him. So it's like a little mini cooldown for him when he's taking damage, right? Like, it's great. I'm on layer 1. Not one of these abilities when I'm on layer 7 can be found. None of them. And then, right, I'm on floor 5 and I've got like 17 anima powers, right? Like, I'm swimming in anima powers. I freaking get to floor 5, you know, in like the layer 6 or whatever. I've got like 10, maybe. Like, it's like they limit them. So it's like, we're going to give you all the shit powers and we're going to give you... Stop. And we're not going to give you very many of them. So that way, that's my conspiracy. I think that's how they make it, quote unquote, harder. Okay, dispute it. Prove me wrong. Dang it.
We did a layer 8 twisting corridors and had awesome powers and destroyed it.
You had Austin powers?
Yes, awesome powers.
I mean,
We got the gold member power.
Check it out.
Yeah.
It's just very frustrating.
Yeah, baby.
It's very frustrating.
I totally get your pain. But unfortunately, like, I don't know.
So
It's all a conspiracy.
It's
I
a
think
conspiracy.
I'm wondering if it's randomized and if we knew, okay, it's randomized. The powers are random, but I'm wondering if certain powers show up.
More.
No. If certain powers show up on like a floor and you pick a certain power, if that directly influences the pool of powers that are going to be randomly pulled from later. So like,
that's interesting.
when we were running, he's like, I'm not taking these soul-shaped powers. I'm not taking these soul-shaped powers. I'm not taking these soul-shaped powers.
Yeah.
And they kept showing up.
Yeah.
I wonder if you take it the first time you have it, if it's gone and out of the pool.
I tried that.
Did you get it again?
Yeah.
How many times does it stack?
I don't know. I did get it again though. It was
but
frustrating.
it might reduce the likelihood
Right, of you getting it
of
again.
you getting it again and all that stuff. So there might be a way to kind of control the randomness a little bit, or it could just be completely random, or there could be just a dev assigned to each player's instance to go, okay,
You're doing too good.
She's on this floor. She's just gonna get +3 verse on every power. That's it.
I would be okay with that on my Boomkin, but less so. On...
+3 haste then.
Oh yeah. I mean, it sucks though because like the powers that you see at the broker tend to be the ones that you didn't take when you were, which is frustrating.
They are
it's like,
some powers that
that's
you have
really,
seen.
Yeah, that's frustrating. Like I didn't take them for a reason. God damn it.
I mean, but you have to think about it. So the question is the pool of powers randomized for the entire layer when you enter or is it randomized for each floor when you go to a new floor, or is it just whenever it drops it's randomized at that point? So maybe what has anima cells is randomized when you enter the floor or the layer, but when you activate it and you click on it, then it's random. It's just like, and if there's a lot of powers and it's random, it's obviously the lower ones are probably going to have a higher weight, a higher chance of being one of the ones, and you could just really have shit luck and just not get anything good. But I really don't know if that's necessarily their means of making it difficult, especially after getting ones like getting a twisting corridor where it had 2 wings, so 12 floors of the same wing, which I think we were lucky that one was like the doggos. When they spawn, they have X amount of more health based on the stacks.
Yeah, and if we just kept pulling, we didn't get doggos, which was nice.
Right, but had that been fire damage, or had that been increased physical damage that the mobs deal, or increased magical damage, having 2 wings of that back to back, or even split up, would suck.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're rolling the dice each time, but it's just like you're reaching your hand into a bag of random sided dice, so you don't even know what you're getting, and you're throwing them. And sometimes you reach in and you just grab a bunch of D4s and they all roll 1.
All the time I do that. I'm a horrible dice roller.
I mean, and sometimes you will get good powers, and I don't know what drives it. It's hard to say.
It's frustrating because the higher you are in layers, the more impactful those terrible powers are.
Especially when you are item level 135.
And there's no way to mitigate that, like other than coming back later with better gear, or coming back in and doing another, another layer, whatever. It just it's very frustrating. When I sit there and I like talk back to the computer.
No. Let's be fucking real. You fucking sit there and you cuss the motherfucker out.
Yeah,
Goddamn motherfucking game, you're a piece of shit. What the fuck is this goddamn power? What the fuck?
You have to record her doing it one day.
Yeah.
No, I have to wear headphones because I'm trying to work.
Yeah, it's I get angry. It's that and pet battles, man. That and pet battles.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I was getting tremendously pissed last night.
Yeah.
It was.
No, it is frustrating. It's frustrating, especially when you have a good run, a good couple of runs.
Yes.
And then you hit that wall or that break point where you're just on. You're down on your luck. It's just like Green Jesus isn't rolling well for you.
Like,
And
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just one of those things, and you have to not let it bother you, because it's getting mad about it. It's bad for your soul.
Oh my god.
Mhm.
Oh my god.
It's bad for my soul when you get mad about it.
I don't think I've sworn so much as I did today. Like just in these last couple of layers. I really feel like I'd been playing for way too long.
It's funny because I've felt that a lot lately, and I've felt it in Torghast more than anything. so-
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
anger inducing in there.
Well, Torghast makes it feel like you're playing for a long time because it takes forever.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's a pretty good point to start wrapping things up. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been Server Restart In. We just kind of a brief recap. We talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about the Covenant
Torghast.
storyline. We talked about Torghast. We talked a little bit about raiding. We talked about Blizzard just basically making it a pain in the ass for anybody to do anything above layer 5 and just giving them shit powers. It's. I'm pretty sure that the code logic is just if Kristen, then shit.
Yes, shit powers.
And we talked a little bit of UI coding kind of stuff, and about how much a pain in the ass that is, and how it just kind of sucks that there's no documentation. Again, thanks everyone for listening. You can check us out at facebook.com/serverrestartin, or send us a tweet at server_restart. That's how it works. And thanks again, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.